Okay, it sounds like my first video on this got cut off, so we'll try again here. So when factoring, remember, always take out the GCF no matter what. Even if it's a trinomial, four-nomial, try to do that first. But then you need to know how to think about these. So factoring, you're just unmultiplying. So for example, if you have a binomial, typically the way we do that is take out a greatest common factor, and then we have, some type of binomial left. So for example, you might have something like, 2x squared plus 4x. Take out the GCF, which they both have a 2x in common. And so there's an x left over from that and a 2 left over from that. And again, you can check, that's 2x squared, that's 4x. And again, make sure there's no GCF between these, because you might have, like if these both have a 4 in common, then obviously that should have been an 8 instead. All right, and then you're done. So typically you take out a GCF, one parenthesis, and you're done. This would be your final answer. You do have to check to see if this factors more, and we'll do that in the next little bit here. Sometimes you get that special case. So remember, sometimes when you FOIL, you get what we call the difference of two squares. So you get a perfect square minus a perfect square, right? So like you get x squared minus 36. And there's only one type of problem that produces that binomial, and that is x minus 6, x plus 6. So you square root, one's plus or minus, right? So if you can't take out a GCF and it's not the one parenthesis, you look for this guy, right? And so then your final answer looks like that. All right, trinomials. We kind of have what we call easy FOIL and then kind of hard FOIL. Easy FOIL is when there's no number in front. So you have something like this. And so there's no number here, which makes it easier because when you do your little loopies, there's no choice here, and these are going to be ones, so they're not going to really change what your factors are here. So the factors of 4 are 1 and 4 and what, 2 and 2. And so you just have to guess and test until they work. So for example, if I put a 2 here and a 2 here, I get a 2x and a 2x, that's 4x, that's not 5. So I'm not going to use that one. So 4 and 1 make 5, which is awesome. So I'm going to put a 4 there and a 1 there. So when I do my loopies, I get a 4x and a 1x. If those are both positive, I end up getting 5x. So I know that those are both positive. I can just follow my loopies. So that would be my final answer. Okay, so easy FOIL, you just can look at these factors and figure out which ones will, when you add and subtract, will give you that number. Hard FOIL, which isn't really hard, it's just harder, is when there's a number in front. So maybe you get 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. And so, all right, and so again, I'm going to make my little loopies here. And so I'm going to split my problems here. So here I have 3, which is 1 and 3. 8 is 1 and 8. And what, 2 and 4. So here I have some choices. This is 3x and this is 1x. So there's not really any choice there. And you don't need the 1. I just kind of put it there so you could see it. But notice when you do your loopies, these numbers are going to change because they're going to get multiplied by that 3. So you can't just look at these and say, oh, which one gives me 10? None of them give me 10. Well, but they're going to change because like this 8 might get multiplied by that 3, or that 4 might get there. All right, I usually try to start with the ones that are close together. I only would use 8 and 1 if this is a really big number. So I usually start with 2 and 4. All right, so maybe I put the 4 here for some reason and the 2 here. All right, and so I get what? A 4x and a 6x, and that looks like it might be an option. I'd need them both to be negative, so to get negative 10x. But the problem is, notice if I put 2 negatives in there, a negative times a negative is a positive. So even though these give me a negative 10x, when I check FOIL, everything works except the last. A negative and a negative is a positive. No way to get that. So this is not the right combination. Even though it looks like it might be, it is definitely not. So I'm going to try again. And before I give up on these, I'm going to turn them around. So I'm going to put the 4 here and the 2 here. All right, so this obviously did not work, even though it looked awesome. All right, so now I do my loopies, and I get a 12x and a 2x. And so that also can give me a 10. Again, notice how that 4 gets impacted by the 3. That's why this is a little harder, because you just can't look at these. You actually have to do the loopies. Right, I want a negative 12 and a positive 2 because I want a negative 10. So the bigger one has to be more negative. The absolute value of that is 12. I want that to be more negative. So again, follow your loopies. The negative goes there, the positive goes there, and then we go. So there's my final answer. And again, if you want to check it, you can do FOIL. But notice when you do last, you do get a negative 8 that time. All right, the last type, and again, we could do the box, but I can do that in another video. All right, a four-nomial is when you can factor by grouping, or you can do the box. Okay, so if a four-nomial, you might have something like x cubed, x squared, xn plus 1. Factoring by grouping, you do GCF, and then a GCF here. Now, if there's nothing in common, you still have to take something out. So I'm going to take out a positive 1, and there has to be a +1 or -1. There has to be something there, some symbol. All right, so I took the GCF of those, and now, if you notice, they have this in common. So that's the third GCF. So a GCF of these, and then my new GCF, or greatest common factor, is that guy. So I pull that out, and my leftovers, which are those two things, go in the box. Now, sometimes students wonder why there isn't 2 of these or squared out here. It's because I'm pulling that out. So that the 2 part comes in the fact that I would take all of this times this, so there would be 1 distributing, and then I would also take all of that times that, so that would be the second distributing, right? And so those are the methods. So when you look at these, if you have a binomial, you always check GCF first, and then perfect square minus perfect square, and sometimes they have both. If it's a trinomial, you're just unfoiling, and it might be the easy kind, might be hard kind. Now, there is another method, the box, which we can talk about in another video. And then if it's a four-nomial, you're going to factor by grouping, which is just GCF, GCF, and then another GCF. And again, the box is another option on that too, and I'll do that in another video.